although it may not seem like it, a person making a move when they have nothing to lose. The runaway slave was a courageous individual. To leave for the unknown into the darkness, guided only by the natural resources made available to man, when the storm clouds would allow the stars to appear under the brow and the moon available for the wolves to howl, through backwoods and creeks and fields of beasts that slither, chomp, and growl. I can only imagine how terrifying it was to hear the wind blowing and sticks bowing to a snap and crickets chirping while they navigate no map, only a hope that wherever they end up will be better than where they were at. And to find their way to freedom, to taste the air of freedom, to hear silence in the daytime, that is a sound of freedom. They risked lives that could be taken at any moment and almost surely would be taken if they failed. But that life back there, why am I calling that life? That existence, a roach squashed under a boot would be in a better position. So if a runaway slave is courageous, then what's the word for someone who runs away, succeeds, and then comes back to be a guiding light for their people? Harriet and others like her were the world's first superheroes. Because the question that really begs to be answered is, with nothing to lose, why didn't more slaves run away? The answer, in my opinion, isn't because the reaper awaited, but because the reaper was made to wait. Given a number like at the DMV and told to take an empty seat, my sympathy falls heavier for the ones that were on the brink. To be beaten to near death, then live to make a full recovery, knowing that you'll never walk as straight or move as brisk, or that going through it once didn't put you at any lesser risk of it happening again. It wasn't death, but the manner of death that was frightening. If every slave was put out their misery nice and quick, it would have been slaves running away every hour on the hour. But to be hauled away and have word spread around town about them getting ready to put old Bright Boy down and be shot, stabbed, mutilated, castrated, burned, dismembered, and still hung, that's a terrifying way to leave an equally terrifying existence. Post-legal slavery, black folks would continue to face this reality in the Jim Crow South. If I jumped into examples, I'd be recording until February. So in the interest of actually getting this essay to y'all, I'm going to skip on this recording. Oh, but it wasn't just the South. No, sharecroppers who migrated north and west would find out very quickly that racism and hatred made that trip long before them. Yeah, but that train didn't come from the South. No, that train crossed the Atlantic. Yeah, racism decked the halls and hung like pictures on the walls, sometimes covered in gift wrap that looked like nods and smiles, while other times needed to be wound up like a jack-in-the-box. Then surprise! But no one was surprised. Racism was the salt that seasoned this land generously. But when that pepper began to spread, that's when that fire was turned on and things began to heat up. Then as more people would come in, we'd add that paprika and garlic, onion powder, a little bit of chili powder. The country went from blue rare to overcooked. My people found out a river doesn't separate land. It runs atop. Now I would love to continue on and on about the Great Migration, but as suggested, I would like to take this time to confront the realities of the present. The black man who migrates today doesn't proceed on that journey to escape slavery. He knows not of a slave except for what he has seen on text and screen. He is not a runaway, unless for reasons undisclosed. He is not hurriedly escaping the pitchfork and torch of the robe-donning dominant caste. He is not being met at a train or bus station or at an airline gate by a sheriff deputy, preventing his departure. He doesn't have to dress like Shanae or be secretive with his itinerary. Presently, black people are not enslaved. We are not starving. The only marks on our backs were put there by our parents. We are not denied an education. We can sit anywhere on a train, a bus, an airplane, in a restaurant. We can check into any hotel. We are not prevented from working any occupations except by the prejudice of certain hiring managers. We are not placed on a different pay scale than anyone else doing that job. We can vote, be in public with, hold hands, show signs of affection, and marry our white counterparts if we so choose. The list of things that we are not subject to that our ancestors were goes on and on. Black Americans today not only live a far better life than our ancestors would have dreamed of, but we live a far better life than most people on earth, if judging by the things that we have shown to care about. And most importantly, as the Alabama Riverboat Brawl accurately depicted, we are not afraid of that man. We don't have the same driving factors they had to cause us to migrate en masse the way they did. Hell, if they was the rich niggas and boss bitches that we claim to be, they would have never left the South. Yeah, I'll probably be born and raised in Warner Robins, Georgia, where most of my father's side reside today. Cause yeah, my ancestors would have probably never got off that train to New York or stopped early. Today, we don't pick up and leave for a different city because of oppression. We do it because there's a better opportunity there, a change of scenery, change of weather. Some of us do it because we want a different lifestyle that isn't afforded where we're currently at. The irony is, the Great Migration was the name given to our ancestors' mass exodus out of the South. But everyone that I know that has migrated somewhere else has moved back to the South. Now, I will admit, I do romanticize the past. It's because I respect the leadership that was shown then that hasn't been shown since. That leadership, along with the toughness and determination of our people, is what I admire most. Oh, but I'd argue I'm not the only one in the past. Others are also in the past, projecting the struggles and oppression that Black people suffered then into modern day. And that simply isn't a reality of the present. We have roughly 47 million Black people in this country, men, women, and children, who, unlike the migrants of Mexico, Venezuela, Haiti, or the Ukraine, have no place in this world to call home. And a homeless person who goes from shelter to shelter doesn't arrive at the best one and yell out, "Honey, I'm home." I stated in a previous video that I find it far more feasible for 47 million people to come together and create a better life for themselves where they already are than to pick up, move somewhere else, and start all over. And while I recognize world travel as one of the keys to personal freedom, and I myself have plans of retiring abroad if I can't afford San Diego, there are a number of reasons why I believe mass migration is not the solution to the problems of Black Americans. Now, before I go into my argument, understand that I am speaking specifically to mass migration. I believe it's extremely beneficial to participate in the world on a global scale. If you want to live abroad, study abroad, work abroad, find a spouse abroad, or just travel and experience different cultures all over the world, I am 100% in support of that decision. I posted a video a long time ago suggesting that Black people get out and experience all they can and create favorable situations for themselves. Also, I would like to thank Brother Shatelko for inspiring this piece. I'm anticipating a strong counter-argument. Now with this one, I'm not going to number my points. I'm going to simply ask questions for the audience to consider themselves and then answer in the comments if they so choose. We'll start with, what does an ocean separate? I think we forget that the African sold Africans into slavery. Then the British enslaved us, the Spanish enslaved us, the Portuguese enslaved us, the French enslaved us, the Irish enslaved us, the Native American enslaved us, the African American enslaved us. There isn't a continent on this earth where slavery didn't exist. Every African country, other than Ethiopia, has been colonized. What does German history look like, starting with modern-day Namibia at the turn of the 20th century? What did they do in the Holocaust? What's happening in Gaza right now, or Sudan, or Xinjiang? I think we need to first rid ourselves of the notion that things have only happened in America. No, things have happened to us in America because that's where we have been. We don't need to uproot ourselves and start all over in places that haven't shown to be receptive to us as a group. Forget the 47 million number. Do you believe that if 1 million Black migrants, just over 2% of our population, showed up to the border of another country, we'd be welcomed with open arms? Or shall we look at the US southern border to get our answer? Oh, let me guess, it's just an American thing, right? Did we not just witness over 1 million Palestinians fleeing their homes, only to be stuck between borders and bombs? Did it not take 24 days, not hours, 24 days, for Egypt to open its borders so that aid could get into those people? We are going on 405 years in this country, and over this time we have been enslaved, oppressed, lynched, and brutalized. Postcards were made of our bullet-ridden charred bodies. We've had leader after leader assassinated. The world saw what they did to Emmett Till. The world saw what they did to Denise, Addie Mae, Carol, and Cynthia. The fighters of other countries witnessed firsthand the treatment of our Black soldiers by their white peers and superiors. What country stepped in to tell the US they would not tolerate this mistreatment of my people? What country sent an army to see to it that my enslaved ancestors be set free? Where was this world that is so accepting of us when my people needed it to intervene? That world has never existed. The truth of the matter is, when the United States was oppressing us and others, other countries were oppressing other minority groups. No one was fighting for us in our existence except for us. The only country that has given an invitation or a path to citizenship for our people is Ghana, 400 years after they began selling African bodies to European traders. Now that my people have fought all the battles and made a decent living for ourselves and traveled the world and became billionaires and multimillionaires with something to offer, astronauts and astrophysicists and marine biologists and surgeons that are world renowned and, professionals and scholars of many different fields, now we're welcomed home. I believe that Black people who experience the warmth of the sun on other lands experience that because, like Black people up north before the Great Migration, they are far and few in between on that land. There simply aren't enough of us to be worried about. The minute a good amount of us shows up, I believe there are plenty of examples throughout history and presently that show how the natives of a land are going to respond. Just as even the Black Northerners began to turn sour towards Southern migrants once there were too many of them and they began to insert their ways into Black society. Just as people, including many Black folk, in cities like Chicago and New York, are turning sour towards the migrants that they feel are invading their areas today. But do you think the Colombians, Ghanaians, Filipinos, Thais are going to put their homes up for sale for a third of the price and just leave when we begin to show up and call their streets home? Once we show up in mass and start taking their women, start competing for their jobs, and our culture starts to contaminate theirs? Come on, man, y'all know how this goes. The world has shown over and over what happens when a larger group becomes intolerant of a smaller group. If you look up the term mass genocide, you'll see a world problem, not an American one. And when the groups are of same size, they call that war. Again, we are the only people who have fought for us. The William Lloyd Garrisons of the world have very little impact today. If 200,000 Black Americans abroad, a little under 0.5% of us, found themselves under attack in you name the land, tell me who is going to show up to stop that massacre. That number will be half of the lowest estimates of people killed in Rwanda. No country stepped in to stop that. Just as no country is stepping in to stop any of the conflicts or atrocities going on around the world today. A flight transports a man. It doesn't transform him. This is why it's said, wherever you're at, there you are. The work of bettering ourselves still has to be done before we migrate anywhere, or all we're going to do is transport the same trash-ass culture elsewhere. The location doesn't change a person. You have to change up here first, and then the rest will follow. Shanquella Robinson wasn't killed in Mexico by Mexicans. That was our people. Going down there, acting the same as we do up here. Supposed to be on vacation, but packed all the rah-rah. But the rah-rah didn't travel in a luggage. No, it traveled first class up here. Y'all say it's a sickness that flows through our communities, right? Well, what country wants to take in another country sick? How long do y'all think it's gonna take before these uncles who made the trip start telling their gangbanging ass nephews to come on down so they can turn their lives around? And how long after that do you think it's gonna take before you be in the mall and you hear, "What up, blood? No, what's that shit you was talking in the States? No, I don't wanna hear none of that. You thought you was safe, huh? You thought niggas weren't gonna catch you in Zambia, huh?" How long before the strong, independent, don't need no man amongst our women begin to contaminate the minds of their women? Why you ironing that man clothes? What? You cooked for him? You making him a plate? He got hands, he got feet. Girl, why you covered all up? We going out tonight. Don't let that man tell you how to dress. Like, what do y'all think is gonna happen when our kids out in them streets doing something they not supposed to do? And then one of them men try to correct them and they hit them with that, "You ain't my daddy." And then they go tell their mama and their mama come over and start to cussing that man out, talking to that man like a man. What y'all think is gonna happen? All hell gonna break loose on that land. I'm for real, man. Y'all think we just gonna arrive there and start to take on the culture of that land? Who does that? How is New York, the most culturally diverse city in our country, divided up? Is it just 5 boroughs? Or do they have Little Italy, Jamaica Town, Chinatown? I went to Newark, New Jersey, my birthplace, in the summer of 2001. You want to know what I saw? I saw a corner store that had a big Grape Street mural painted on the side of it and a bunch of Grape Street Crips standing outside. Would you like to know what I didn't see? Grape Street. In fact, the closest Grape Street was 91 miles away in a town in South Jersey. That tells me that if a Crip gang traveled 2,777 miles from where it originated on Grape Street, Jordan Downs, Watts, California, to Hyatt Court in Newark, New Jersey, it can travel another 900 miles on top of that to go from Newark, New Jersey to Casablanca, Morocco. Do y'all think that we're just gonna automatically believe in the institution of marriage again? Or are we gonna bring baby mama culture elsewhere? These countries want productive individuals contributing to their society. There is no way you can tell me that our people are productive enough to contribute to their society, but not enough to contribute to the community that we are already established in. So if the same work has to be done, then doing it for ourselves would easily be the move. And that brings me to my next question. Is it the land or the mindset? It's not practical for millions of people to pick up and move overseas today. And that's any group. There is no new land. The land that many people called new was old. They had to conquer and continuously massacre a native people in order to establish that new land for Europeans to arrive at in droves. There are far too many in our communities who don't have the means to move across city, yet alone leave with the clothes on their backs to another land. And again, unlike the past, they're not running from some mob that's coming to take their lives. So there will be no reason for them to leave behind what they do have. Far too many who, before this insane rise in inflation, were living check to check and barely keeping food in their refrigerators. Far too many who aren't useful to society. And it's all because of mindset. If it was because of the country they lived in, then we would see whole countries that are rich and whole countries that are poor. But because we know every country that have rich, poor, criminals and law-abiding citizens, people that take others' lives and take women's innocence and falsely accuse, and people who stand against all of that, we know that's not the case. That would lead me to believe exactly what the geology suggests, that there are no borders. It's just one piece of land with water sitting atop. That means if you are poor here in a land full of opportunity, you'll be just as poor in another land full of opportunity. And although I don't have the data to back this up, I think it's safe to say that America has the most extravagant of poor people across the globe. It's a mindset. And this is why I always say, get them kids out the house, get them out the hood. And this is why when I get some free time, I am going to start a youth travel club so they can see differently than what they see daily and open their minds to new possibilities and have their dreams extend further than their neighborhoods. Every time you're in a poor area of your city, you're going to notice it immediately because you're going to see trash everywhere, shit all outside of front doors, disabled vehicles in the parking lot. Having money or not shouldn't affect the cleanliness of your area. It shouldn't affect the pride you show in what you do have, but they have poor mindsets. They don't take care of the things they have because they don't pay for it, so they don't see the value in it. This is why last year there was a reported increase in property owners who were declining to rent to Section 8. They're tired of their properties being destroyed and left in dismay by tenants who don't understand the value of that property. The only way they'll understand that is to purchase a property for themselves, but that's incomprehensible. Many amongst poor people make poor decisions across the board. That is why there's a direct correlation between poverty and violent crime. And my last question is very simple. What the fuck are we running from? There are no white mobs going into black neighborhoods today looking for the boy who was seen with that white woman. You know what you're not going to see in a black neighborhood today? A white person who doesn't live there. They avoid our neighborhoods at all costs. Because like one of us have said, and we have all since adopted, we are not our ancestors. We are not running from shit. If one of my white neighbors come to my door right now, I hope he is there to sing a Christmas carol or inquire about the possibility of borrowing a cup of sugar or maybe some Grey Poupon. And he ain't getting that unless he say, pardon me, like the commercial. Because the rah-rah ain't going to go the way he wanted to. Yeah, that wasn't me in South Carolina. I told y'all how that man would have been. Everything they do to us today is systemically. And they wouldn't be able to do that if we had trust in each other. If we could form a council and put our trust into a group of leaders that we have appointed to speak on our behalf. If we could form a political action committee, and when that committee gives us that pamphlet of candidates that they chose to endorse because they have agreements with them that will benefit our communities if they're elected, and we actually voted by that. If all the sets would recognize each other as brothers and be willing to fight for each other instead of against each other, then the police couldn't even come into our neighborhoods incorrectly because we simply outnumber them. Again, what are we running from? There are roughly 47 million black people in this country. See, we minimize ourselves by saying 14%, and I'm guilty of that too. So I don't think y'all understand the magnitude of what I just said. That means we have a bigger population than 161 of the 193 countries recognized by the United Nations. If we had our own land, we would be the 5th largest country by population in the Americas. Only behind the US, Mexico, Brazil, and Colombia. Yes, there are more black people in America than there are Canadians. Since when did 47 million people run from anything? At what point in history did y'all read or hear about that? I know what I've read about millions of people doing. And again, I'm not even calling for my people to prepare for war. I'm calling for my people to come together so we can improve our communities, minimize our struggles, begin to feel safe in our neighborhoods. That way we can start enjoying life around each other. In closing, there is no getting around the work, and no one can do that for us but us. The absolute worst thing that could happen is for our people to show up en masse into another country and those people to begin to hate us, because this time it's not going to be about skin color. It'll be because of who we have shown ourselves to be. If it's not about land that we have purchased, that belongs to us, that we govern, that we form the culture on, that we educate our children on, that we grow our own food on, that we have vowed to defend, then I am not calling for our people to get up and move anywhere. But again, I would like for my people to have a presence everywhere. So for the brothers and sisters who are abroad, who haven't left the community, who still identify as being a part of us, please continue to push us forward. And for those of us who are here, let's put in this work so that when they come home, they can enjoy it here too. But definitely jump in the comments and let me know what y'all think the move is for Black America. Enjoy y'all day, my people, wherever you are on this earth.